Hello lovelies, welcome to our live on puppies. I was having a little daydream there and didn't realise we'd actually gone past 6:30. I'm just checking my laptop, making sure that you can hear me and everything is tickety-boo. Super. So yes, welcome to our puppy live, our puppy special, and I want to talk about, it's a passion for me, okay? Puppies are a passion for me because when it comes down to Chihuahua behaviour, this is where it all starts. This is where it all begins. And what happens with your puppy now is going to inform the kind of dog you have as an adult. Now, why this matters so much is I was talking about this the other day. I've spoken to 2 or 3 people who've recently taken on Chihuahuas from a rescue, and these dogs are quite young. They were about 2 years old, and they had really significant behavior issues. Like one of them was unhandleable. So the person who's taken this dog on has got quite a lot of work to do. So the question is, what is happening between the first owner taking this dog on as a puppy and 2 years later the dog having such significant behavior issues that they've been rehomed or they've been given up to a rescue or something like that. So there is something fairly major going on in between or while the puppy is growing up, and this is where 90% of the damage or training is done that is going to give you the dog that you get as an adult. And well, okay, so let me also go back and do a little bit, because I'll just go straight into it because it's just such a big subject for me. I need to give you a caveat. Obviously, the advice I'm going to give you, as I always say, is going to be general. If I do a behavior consult for somebody, then I would take an awful lot of information about your dog's health, the dog's background, the routine, etc. And I would tailor a very specific plan for that individual dog. So, obviously, because I don't know the dogs that have people have sent questions in about, then obviously I can't give really detailed information. So I'm just going to give generic information, which should be hopefully helpful. But yes, so it's puppy season, okay? Puppies everywhere. There are puppies falling out of cupboards, and there's nothing better than a puppy, Chihuahua or any breed, because when you're a trainer or a behaviorist, you look at the dog and you look at all of this potential that dog has. So it's really heartbreaking when you see a couple of years down the line that that dog has been surrendered or that dog has been given in because they've got behavior issues. So part of what I want you to do today is talk to some people, talk to you, and answer some of your questions, and hopefully help stop that from happening. Now, can I hang on, I've got a really annoying notice here. I'm not sure I can see any comments here. Let me just update here. So I've got my laptop running because just so I can see any comments that come in. So if you say hi, give me a wave, and then I know that you're there. Okay, so it's puppy season. We all love puppies. Puppies falling out of cupboards. They're absolutely delicious, and they smell. They just smell lovely, and they're full of potential. Now, the thing about puppies is they are always learning. Puppies are always learning. Their brains are like sponges. They are soaking up information constantly, and whether we want them to or not, it doesn't matter whether the information is good or bad or whatever. They are soaking information up constantly, and the way dogs learn is there are things that they learn themselves, which is called classical conditioning, and there are things that we teach them, which are called operant conditioning. So operant is kind of things like we would teach them to sit down, stay, maybe do some agility moves and stuff like that. And classical conditioning is stuff they learn themselves. And this can be a fear. This can be something that the dog is worried about. This can be something that the dog can learn not to worry about. But they are things that they learn themselves. And there is most definitely a crossover between, or if you will, like a crossover on a Venn diagram of things that we inadvertently let our dogs learn themselves because of what we do or we don't teach them. That could be by the way we handle them, or the things that we do to them when they're little. So there are three ways kind of that your dog is going to learn something, and they are always learning whether it's good or whether it's bad. Now, one of the things we need to think about with our Chihuahua puppies is, and you probably, if you've ever done any kind of training with me, you'll have heard me talk about this before, is your Chihuahua's emotional bucket. Now, this isn't just Chihuahuas, this is all breeds. Oh, we got Prince come in to say hello. Hello, gorgeous. You good boy? So, oh, lost the thread of what I was saying. Emotional bucket. So, dogs have an emotional bucket in the same way people do, but obviously their bucket fills up with different things. When that bucket is full, you coming up? No? When that bucket is full, you get overspill behaviours, okay? Now, like people, again, the bucket can empty and the emotions can drain out, but how quickly those emotions drain out will be how resilient your dog is. So if you've kind of got like a really laconic golden retriever who kind of like, oh, don't really care about life, nothing's really a stress, they probably have quite a large emotional bucket with this is an analogy obviously, with a hole in it where the emotions just drain out and the dog it's not filling up, and we're not getting this explosion of emotions out the top. Whereas with Chihuahuas, and especially Chihuahua puppies, they are quite an excitable breed, and they tend to have quite a small emotional bucket, and they tend to have quite a small hole for emotions to drain out. So your average Chihuahua can spend quite a lot of time in a high state of arousal. Now, what happens when a dog spends a lot of time in this high state of arousal is you're going to get overspill behaviors. You're going to get a dog who is system is constantly flooded with cortisol, who is going to be spending a lot of time in flight or flight mode, which does change how they see things. Okay, so a dog again that's using their prefrontal cortex or their thinking brain is just going to make better decisions. Oh, don't need to bark at that. Whereas a dog who's using their amygdala to think is going to be, I need to bark at that, it's a threat, I need to worry about that, there's movement. And that's kind of your average Chihuahua, okay? And this is where we need to make some changes for our puppy. Just check the comments. Oh, hello, Anea, I'm going to say that is. Lost in the Rat Race. That's a really nice handle. So yes, welcome to our Puppy Live. So this is what we need to change for our puppies. Now, the majority of I'm going to say difficult, but it's not difficult. They're just dog behaviors, okay? Dogs do what dogs do with the information and the skills that they have. And if a dog is doing something that we are finding a problem, it's either a training gap or a needs gap. Okay, so when a dog is doing something that we are finding an issue, it's our fault, and that is it, and that includes going to toilet in the house. So dogs don't do things that are wrong. They don't do things that are naughty. They just respond to the environment with the skills that they have. And as our Chihuahua puppy is going to be quite an excitable dog anyway, they are naturally quite excitable. This is where a lot of these crazy excitable behaviors are going to come from. I hope that makes sense. Does that? I hope that. Let me just grab a drink. For anybody who doesn't know me, I do have a bit of a speech impediment, and I will stutter a little bit. And I'm sorry, it's a bit annoying, but it just is what it is. So, yeah. So if I kind of look like I can't say anything, it's probably because I can't. And I've also got some notes in case I wander off, which I do as well. So we need to think about our dog's arousal level, and it's manipulating this arousal level and kind of putting some different settings between 0 and 100 that is going to help us teach our Chihuahua what they need to learn in order for them to become kind of a little bit more balanced. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now there are a couple of things that our Chihuahuas really need to learn as puppies in order, again, to get the well-balanced adult dog. And that is calmness, that is confidence, and that is independence. Okay, now those are 3 really serious skills that a dog needs to learn, but sadly that doesn't happen for Chihuahuas. Now the reason for this, I think one of the main reasons for this, is because of the size of the dog. And people kind of have this mindset where the dog is small, I don't really need to train it, what, you know, how much damage they can do, what can they do, when actually the exact opposite is true. Because if you don't work on this with your dog as a puppy, you are going to then get behavior issues, and then by the time you realize your dog has got behavior issues, those patterns are set, and it's going to be a lot harder to unpick. So the benefit of working with your Chihuahua while they're really young, while their brains are malleable, is just absolutely huge. Now, some of the reasons they don't is because obviously this mindset that people have that Chihuahuas are small and they don't need training. Another one is where people get their advice from. This is just a huge one for me. Because people don't have the mindset to train their dog. When their dog starts to develop, say, barking, because that's a very typical Chihuahua behavior as a puppy and as an adult dog, they'll go, okay, how do I stop my dog barking? Okay, and they'll ask that in some of these really huge social media groups. There's hundreds of them, and these groups are often unmoderated because their job isn't to give Chihuahua information, it's to sell merch, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's what the group is for. But people go there and they ask a question: how do I stop my Chihuahua from barking? And you'll get people who know nothing about dog behavior, nothing about training, who will then start to recycle myths and ideas, such as you need to be the boss is a big one, which we'll talk about in a minute. Squirt your dog with water, put a barking collar on your dog. There's just hundreds of different things. Now, these kind of behaviors suppress barking. These kind of behaviors, these kind of training methods, shaking cans of coins, that's another one that comes up a lot. These kind of things are kind of designed to suppress barking for your dog. But what people don't realize is your dog's mental health. They damage your dog's confidence. So if you have this malleable puppy with a brain that's like a sponge, and the dog is barking, and the dog is barking because its emotional bucket is really full, and it's hears a noise, oh, there's a danger, or it sees some movement, oh, I'm worried about that, so I'm going to bark at that. Then you squirt it with water, or you shake a can of coins at it, or you zap it, or whatever it is people tell you to do. Not only well, there's not only, you are then adding another layer of stress and anxiety into the event for the dog. Now, people will assume that when you do something like that to your puppy, that they make the pairing between barking and pain or worry. Okay, but that is not what happens. What happens is your dog hears a noise, and it drops into this, because it's already full of arousal, its arousal is high. It drops into this avoidance behavior, which is the barking. And then you do something like that, it pairs that unpleasant stimulus with the event that it's barking at, so it will work harder to make that go away. Now, what you might do, and this is why people think it works, is that you might startle the dog into stopping that behavior in the very short term. Now, that's why people think this works. But what is actually happening is you are adding this layer of stress on, and you are filling your dog's emotional bucket, and you will pay for that further down your training journey with your dog. Let me just update my laptop just to see if there's anything else there. So what we need to start doing is we need to start building confidence with our dog, and we need to train our dog in a way that doesn't create these layers of stress, because I'm 100% convinced that it's how we handle our puppies that creates these dogs with massive behavior issues further down the line. Imagine you've got a Chihuahua puppy, and the advice this person has been given is, when they try and bite, when you try to handle them, they nip at you, or they're getting overexcited, so they've got their teeth out, which again I'll talk about in a minute, and you tap them on the nose, which again is not good advice, but it's general advice people will give you. What you're doing is the puppy has learned, remember the sponge, that when your hand goes towards them, that something bad happens. The more you do that, the more you rehearse that, and the more you're going to build a neural pathway that says, when my owner's or when that person's hand comes towards me, I need to defend myself. So rather than the puppy go, oh, well, I won't do that because I get a smack on it, the dog thinks, every time that person's hand comes towards me, something bad happens. I need to defend myself. And this escalates. This can escalate to you trying to put a harness on your dog. It can escalate to putting an outfit on your dog. And again, talk about that in a minute as well. But it can even become when the dog is sat on your lap and kind of half dozing, and you go to stroke it, and the dog sees your hand move, and the dog will come out, and all of a sudden its arousal will go up, and you'll get snapped at, okay? Because the dog remembers, when that person's hand comes towards me, then something bad happens. So with this type of training that people will tell you to do in these groups, you will pay for in an escalation of behavior elsewhere. And then what happens is someone will go, every time I do this to my dog, its teeth comes out, and people will say, you need to go in hard. You need to teach that dog who's boss. You need to get in there before that dog is 16 weeks. Again, no idea what people think is going to happen in 16 weeks, but they do. And you need to go in hard. And so again, the owner escalates this kind of training, and then the dog escalates its defense. And as the dog rehearses this, its defense gets stronger and stronger as they go up through the ladder of communication, to the point where you have a dog that you can't approach, that you can't go near, that you can't touch, that you can't handle. Another real passion for me is this narrative again for puppies, because people want to avoid this, the snapping, aggressive Chihuahua that they have a reputation for, and they want to get it right. And the narrative around socialization for these dogs is also causing a massive problem because it's wrong. Okay, the current narrative around Chihuahua puppies is, and it's, this is any breed, it doesn't really work for any breed, is before they're 16 weeks, again, you've got this 16 weeks, which comes from this idea around a fear window that if you don't get everything done by the time the dog is 16 weeks old, that you are doomed and your dog is never going to learn anything. It's utter nonsense, okay? Because if that was the case, you'd never train, you'd never be able to work with a rescue, you'd never be able to train an older dog. So they start taking the dog out with them everywhere. They start taking the dog up to other dogs, and introducing the dog to other dogs in the belief that if they do that, they will start to learn that other dogs aren't an issue. And they take the dog up to people in the belief that if lots of people touch their dog and stroke the dog and give the dog treats, that the puppy will learn that people aren't the issue. Similarly, they'll take them to busy places. Lots of noise going on, etc., and stuff like that. Okay, all that is happening when you do this is that you are putting a dog, a small dog with very, very limited life experiences, into a massive environment that they do not have the skills for, that they cannot process. So let's just take those apart and look at taking your dog, your Chihuahua puppy, up to another dog to say hello. Now, first of all, adult dogs, can I just grab a drink? Just bear with. It's because I gabble so much. This is such a passion for me that I kind of go and I start gabbering away at 90 miles an hour. So you take your Chihuahua puppy up to another dog, and the other dog, now, older dogs generally dislike puppies because they have no manners and they are unfamiliar with the meet and greet. And quite often a Chihuahua puppy will go in, or any puppy will come in at 90 miles an hour. They will ignore the meet and greet protocol, and dogs and older dogs find them annoying and they find them unpredictable. So as you introduce a puppy, the dog's arousal level might go up a bit. It might not, but it might. And sometimes that can result in the older dog barking at your puppy, or even worse, which is, I think, happened to one of our dogs in Chihuahua school, pin the dog down and bark in its face. Now, the old belief system is, well, that's a good thing because it teaches your puppy where they are in the hierarchy of dogs in general. Really, all it teaches your Chihuahua is that other dogs are scary. Because that memory has gone in accompanied by stress, accompanied by cortisol, you've got what we call a flashbulb memory. Okay, a memory that, and you've probably got them from your childhood, from something that was so scary that you've never forgotten it. That flashbulb memory goes in hard, and once it's in there, it's an absolute sod to try and get past. So taking your dogs up to other dogs to go hello is fraught with unpredictability, unpredictability. Not sure, you know what I'm trying to say. It puts both your dog and the other dog in an unpredictable situation that could end badly for your dog, and probably for the other dog as well, because the other dog, you've got to, whenever you take your dog up to another dog, you have to think about the other dog's feelings as well. I was in the pet shop today getting some nosh for the gang, and there was a lovely little Jack Russell puppy in there, and the woman was taking it up to all the dogs in there, and I'm going, she took it up to one dog, and you could clearly see that this other dog was like, I'm not very keen on this. But she said to the owner, can my dog say hello? And the owner's going, yeah, sure. But it's not the owner that gets to make that decision. It's the dog, okay? And it only takes one bad situation with that other dog for your dog to then be completely worried and scared when it sees another dog, and voila, you have a dog that barks at other dogs on sight because it's got that memory. It sees another dog, it goes into avoidance, which is bark, 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 to create some distance and get that other dog to stay away. The other side of taking your dog up to another dog is it might go, yay, this is great. It might go really well. This is especially at puppy classes. Yeah, it might go really well, and your dog goes up and the other dog plays with it and everything's lovely. So what have you taught your dog? You've taught your dogs that it's okay to run up to other dogs. Okay, now that might look lovely in a class, not so funny when you're out in a field, okay, because your dog has just shot off across the field to say hello to another dog that you know nothing about, and then the situation is you're going back to the unpredictable situation that could end badly for both your dog and the other dog. Okay, I worked with a client once who's a Malinois, beautiful dog, who had ragged a small dog and unfortunately killed it because they had taken the dog out when it was in a really high state of arousal. They'd only just got the dog. They hadn't been told not to take it out for the requisite 3 or 4 weeks or whatever. Its arousal was high. This little dog ran in front of it. It dropped into prey drive, and just took this dog out. That was devastating for the owner, literally devastating. She was heartbroken over it. And that affects your relationship with your dog, as well as the damage that it does to the other dog. So in general, socialization, we need to drop this narrative around socialization. We need to, let's just wake my laptop up. We need to rethink how we socialize our dogs, because true socialization is your dog can look at another dog and go, well, it's none of my business. Okay, the same with people. Your dog should not be going up to people. This is how we create dogs that bark at people. And what the owners will do is they'll give this person a treat, and they'll say, well, can you just give my dog a treat? And to try, and I understand why they do it, because they think that treat then will give the dog a good association with a person. But actually what happens is you create what we call conflict of emotions. So let's imagine, and I have used this analogy before, that you're frightened of clowns. You don't like clowns. I mean, who does? So, but the clown has kind of just got your best piece of chocolate in the whole world that you really, really want. So the clown is, come on then, come and get it. Come and get this nice piece of chocolate. And you want the chocolate more than you don't want to go near the clown. As you go towards it, your arousal level is going to go up. Your heart's going to beat. You're going to go a little bit sweaty and clammy. You might snatch the chocolate and run away. Okay. So if we put this back to our dog, the person is giving the dog a treat. The dog is approaching someone, even though they're not very sure about it. They might snatch the treat and run away, or they might suddenly become really overwhelmed and bite the person, because that happens. You sometimes hear that, don't you? Like, oh, he was wagging his tail and I bent down to touch him and he bit me. Conflict of emotion. So what we need to do again. Oh, and the other one obviously is it might go really well, and we go, oh, lovely dog, and the dog loves it and everything's happy. So again, what have you taught the dog? That running up to people is great. Running up to people is super. We don't want that. Okay. So we need to change the narrative around socialization. Again, that is another whole video on its own, but it's really important that people stop doing this, that people stop this pushing their dog through situations that they just do not have the skills for. So going back to our 3 main skills that our dog needs to learn is our independence, is our optimism, and is our calmness. Our calmness is where we're going to get our bucket, is where we're going to reduce this excitement and reduce this crazy high arousal. And we're going to do that by introducing what we call a calmness protocol with our dog. Okay. Now, for people who are suffering with dogs that are biting, because Chihuahuas can be little land sharks, okay, and they have got the sharpest little needle teeth. So as their arousal level goes up, they will get their teeth out, because in the same way people use their hands, their teeth will come out. They'll be because they're dogs, okay, and that's what they've got available. If you start going, no, don't do that, snap, mac, smack, all you're doing is adding another layer of stress to the situation, when what your dog needs is exactly the opposite. The dog needs calmness. The dog probably needs to be redirected to something that's a mid excitement, like a snuffle mat, a snuffle ball. Bring their arousal level down a notch, and then bring their arousal level down again, so that they can have a nap. So this biting behavior and this overexcitement behavior is generally information that your dog needs a nap, just needs a rest. So I hope that answers the question for people who are asking me about biting, that if your dog is over aroused, your dog is overexcited, how you deal with it will affect later on how your dog responds to your hand movement, okay? If you are smacking the dog on the nose, or you're just waving your hands around in general, you're creating more excitement. If you're waving your hands going, get off, get off, get off, it's just creating a brilliant game. And the dog's arousal level will go up a little bit more. If the dog is biting, mid-level arousal, put them on a snuffle mat, redirect to a snuffle mat. I would stay away from redirecting them to a tug toy, because again, you're pushing the arousal level up. There's nothing wrong with playing tug with your dog, but it depends what you're trying to achieve. If the biting is kind of a bit crazy, and you just kind of get this notion that your dog needs a rest, snuffle mat, snuffle ball, then put them down in their crate or in their pen for a nap. So the first thing is calmness, okay? Building a calmness protocol. Your dog needs to sleep. A Chihuahua puppy needs to sleep for about 18 to 20 hours a day, and very, very few domestic dogs get enough rest during the day. And what I mean by rest is not just lying on the sofa with one ear cocked, ready to jump off and start barking at the slightest sound. I'm talking about active rest where the decision-making process has been taken away from the dog, and they're in their crate or they're in a pen. The environment has been shut down from them by it being covered, and the dog can just go, no, okay, I can rest here. It's a bit like us getting under the duvet or under a weighted blanket if we've just had enough. So that is one of the things that we really need to work on for our dogs, is our calmness. So Michelle said land shark, perfect description. Absolutely. It's quite common. Trainers use that quite a lot, but they are, their teeth are really, really sharp. So independence. So when we get a dog, when we get a Chihuahua puppy, they are adorable, okay? And you just want to pick them up. You want to handle them, and handling them is important to some extent, but mollycoddling them is slightly different. So we need to think about how much we pick the dog up, whether the dog wants to be picked up, and whether they have invited that as an interaction. But more importantly than that, what can we do to grow independence away from you? Now, some people worry about this because they think, oh, my dog won't love me anymore, but that's just not true, okay? An independent dog isn't a dog that doesn't love you. It's just a dog that can cope when you're not there. And a dog that has crushing separation anxiety is not an empowered dog. It's not a happy dog. A dog that cannot cope if you're not there is a dog that is going to spend a lot of its life really, really anxious. So building independence is really important. And people will tell you to do this by, one of the things they say about separation anxiety, which really makes me laugh, is kind of like, you're going to nip out the door and then you're going to come back. Da-da! I'm back, okay? And the dog is going to go, I get this now. She goes out and then she comes back in again, so I don't need to worry, okay? That is not how it goes, okay? When you start to go out, then the dog starts to predict. They're very, very good at this, predicting, oh, she's got her coat on. She's going out. So the arousal level goes up a bit, okay? And you'll start to get this kind of like, oh, I'm a bit worried about this. The arousal level's gone up a bit. You disappear out the door and the dog's arousal level goes up. And then you come back in the door and the dog's oxytocin level goes up. Yay! Especially if you go, oh, he's a good boy, and you give them a nice stroke and all the rest of it. Your dog's oxytocin level goes up. So what you've done is you've created this spike. You've created this spike of worry, which you've then matched with oxytocin, which increases the dependency on you, because oxytocin is the love and attachment. So you've got these spikes like this that increases the importance of you coming and going. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I'm not entirely sure I explained that very well. But every time you come in, ta-da, here I am, you've rehearsed that for your dog. Okay, so the dog is going, yeah, okay, this is just crazy excitement every time the person comes back in again. What we want to build for our puppy is the ability for our dog to move away from you. Okay, so the dog can go off over here and do something on its own. It can be engaged in something positive on its own. Now we do that by playing really simple little games like scatter feeding in the garden. So you might go and put some of the dog's daily food allowance in the grass, just in a little area of the grass, so that the dog is foraging for it, because when a dog is hunting for something, it puts them into a seeking mindset. The seeking mindset is a positive mindset. They find a bit of food, it's, oh, dopamine, oh, that was good, a bit like someone playing a fruit machine. We don't want to create a dopamine dependent dog, but we do want a dog to get little glimmers of dopamine and optimism when they're on their own, rather than you having to be there all the time to make that happen. So you could mimic this, a dog's natural desire to hunt and scavenge, by doing scatter feeding in the garden, by using a snuffle mat or something, and you do it somewhere where the dog can't see you. You could also replicate this by feeding the dog out of sight. So you might put the dog's food around the back of the sofa, so the dog has to go and get their dinner away from you, and they have to go and explore and look for that. Other little games that grow this independence is like little treasure hunts where you hide bits of food around, okay? And you are not controlling that environment for the dog. The dog is allowed to go and learn and hunt and forage for this without your constant interference. And adding to that is this incessant picking them up, okay? We work on a consent-based handling model, which again is a whole video on its own. But a very quick takeaway here is we don't just pick our dog up. We don't just go in and swoop and pick the dog up without any understanding of whether the dog actually even wants that. Again, because the more you do that, the more the dog becomes wary around your hand movement, especially if you're not familiar. And I'll put a copy of this in the comments with the ladder of communication, which is, I don't want this. Okay, now that can just be stillness. That can just be the dog going, just standing still. I don't want this. But if you are not familiar with that and you pick the dog up anyway, it could be yawning, it could be licking, it could just be turning its head. If you're not familiar with that and you just keep doing it to the dog will kind of start to think, no one takes any notice when I go, I don't want this. And it will escalate through the ladder of communication to the point where it got its teeth out. Okay, biting is right at the top of the ladder. So when a dog is got its teeth out, is snapping, curling its lip at you, we call it the Chihuahua curled lip of doom. You have already missed or just not seen a good 8 or 9 different communications from your dog that has said, I don't want this. Okay, and because you have not noticed them, the dog is just automatically going to go straight to bite. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So we start to work on a consent-based handling where we don't pick the dog up unless the dog is indicated, and for Prince that will be like a nose push, or if I'm stood up, he might put his paws on me because I encourage them to put their paws on me. Doesn't necessarily mean he wants to be picked up. It might just mean he wants a scritch. But if I say, do you want to pick up? He'll turn round so I can pick him up under his rib cage. If he doesn't turn round, or he just sits back like that, then doesn't want to be picked up. So I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't pick him up. So we start to work on a consent-based handling model for our puppies. So they start to learn they can trust you. So they learn that approaching you doesn't automatically mean something that they don't want to happen to them is going to happen to them. And I'm going to lump in here again, it's a much bigger subject. I'm going to lump in here dressing your Chihuahua up, okay? I hate this, okay? I really hate to see Chihuahuas dressed up in outfits, okay? I cannot bear it. One, because it does create these, and I'm not talking about a functional jumper or a functional coat if you live in the middle of Canada or something like that. That's fair enough. If it's really freezing cold, then obviously you would need to put an outer layer on them. I'm talking about dresses and frocks and jumpers and just stupid stuff that the dogs don't need to wear. It's these incessant pulling it on over their head or ramming their paws into it, again with no care how the dog feels about that. So again, you've got this, your hands are in the dog's face. The dog has going, I don't really want this. No one's listening. So the dog starts to go up through the ladder of communication to get the teeth out. Okay. And then what happens is the owner will go in hard, like we talked about earlier. They then might think they need to show the dog who's boss, and everything escalates. The relationship between the owner and the dog starts to fall apart, and the dog's behaviour escalates, and voila, 2 years later, the dog's been rehomed because it's absolutely psychotic. I hope that makes sense. If you've got any questions, then please put them in the comments. Oh, tummy's rumbling. I must be a bit hungry. Anyway, so we've talked about calmness, and we talked about independence and optimism. Okay, so an optimistic dog is a dog that's confident. So confidence and optimistic are kind of tied in together. So when a dog is pessimistic, because dogs can be pessimistic in exactly the same way humans are. Now, our Arlo, personality-wise, has a tendency towards pessimism. He'll give up something quite... he's getting better. We are working with him. But he'll give up something quite quickly if he's playing a game, a toy. He gets offended, is a good way of putting it, quite quickly. And a lot of this is how he was brought up as a puppy. He had a terrible, terrible start to life. On top of that, he was neutered very young, and that has all played into him not being a very confident or very optimistic dog. Again, that's a whole nother ball game. But so optimism and confidence are something. So when a dog is optimistic and a dog is confident, they might hear something. Nothing to worry about. None of my business. When a dog is pessimistic, it's, oh, what's that? That's something to worry about. So building optimism for our puppies is a life skill. We want our dog, when their brains are this malleable, to see life through rose-coloured glasses, because we want to avoid these flashbulb memories. We want to avoid things that are going to go in hard, that is going to then affect how the dog feels about something, which then starts to escalate as the dog's bucket fills up. You can see how this becomes cyclic. So this is where, again, ties in with the socialization. Just check the laptop. This ties in with our socialization, putting the dog into situations that they don't have the skills for. So let's imagine you're under pressure. You will be put under pressure when you get a Chihuahua puppy. People will put you under pressure to get the dog out. Okay, and people, and now I've got a new harness and I'll just pull it over the dog's head, regardless again of how they feel about it. And They take the dog out, and the dog is kind of never been out before, never been on a lead before. The dog is pulling because it's opposition reflex, because if somebody pushes you, you'll push back against it, otherwise you'd fall over. Same principle with a dog on a lead. A dog needs to be taught how to walk on a lead. You don't just put them on a lead, take them out, and hope they're going to get it, because they're not going to get it. But you've got your puppy out there because you've been told that you need to do this as part of socialization. And then while you're walking along the road, a car goes over the grate and it makes a horrible noise. You don't hear it because it's just part of the everyday environment, but for your dog, that's massive. Okay, they have no idea what that is. It's massive, scary noise, comes from nowhere, bang, in with a flashbulb memory. So then your dog remembers that. So when they go out the next time, their arousal's already high before they get out the door. So then you've kind of got, your dog is in a high state of arousal. They're going to be looking for trouble. They're going to be looking for danger. They're going to be in an avoidant state of mind because of that thing that happened to them that you might not have even noticed. But if you tie that in with, I'm going to take them up to say hello to this dog, and the dog maybe growls at them, or the dog does this, you can start to see how you chip away at your dog's optimism. So growing optimism, again, is an absolutely essential skill for our dog. Now, how we do this, again, I'm going to talk about this a little bit down the line, but I just want to go back to answering a couple of the questions that came in. And what I've just talked about ties in quite nicely with a question that was sent in by Liv. She's got a small dog. He's barking and lunging at traffic, at bikes, at people, at other dogs. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. Literally exactly what I'm talking about. The dog has gone out. The dog is in a high state of arousal. It is dropping into avoidance, and it sees everything as a threat and everything as a worry. The dog's bucket is literally full. And the more he goes out, the more he rehearses that, the more he's going to predict that there is trouble out there, the more he's going to bark and lunge at it to get it to stay away. It's an avoidance behaviour. Okay, so what needs to happen for Liv's little dog is we need to stop that. We need to stop the walk, okay? Because it's not serving the dog. It's not teaching the dog anything. All it's teaching the dog is that over and over again, the environment is really scary. We need to go back and work again on the dog. We need to undo some of this wiring and teach the dog calmness and teach the dog optimism, so that when the dog goes out, it has the skills to go, yeah, none of my business. But it is so much better if we can build those skills for our puppy before it all goes wrong. So biting, and so this came in from Barbara. Biting and crazy behaviour. Again, this is, and Zoom is, okay, again, is your dog is just in a high state of arousal, is totally emotionally overloaded, and you need to calm the dog down, okay? So you can redirect to your snuffle mat, you can redirect to snuffle ball, but take it as information that your puppy's just tired, like an over-aroused, stressed child needs to go and have a sleep. Because, like I said, a puppy needs, and that doesn't matter what the breed is, a puppy needs about 18 to 20 hours of sleep a day. Being a puppy and growing as a puppy is absolutely exhausting, like it is for a baby. So getting that sleep, putting the dog into a parasympathetic state so that they grow, they learn, they process information, and digest and heal as well. So one of the other questions that came in as well was, sorry, words not coming, was how do I get my dog to come to me? Now, I would suggest that I can't think who it was who sent that in, actually. getting my dog to come, I haven't written the name down here, sorry if that's you. Getting a dog to come to you is kind of looking at it slightly the wrong way around, okay? Because when this is recall, so when a dog comes to you, that's known as recall, okay? So your dog is over there, you want the dog to come to you, okay? But recall isn't our main heading. Proximity is, okay? And we did have a comment, I'm just going to scroll to that in the group, that came in from Stacey about, she put a post up about someone talking about out of control dogs being seized and stuff like that, and I put a comment in there about we need to teach our dogs proximity. So proximity is a zone around you that the dog doesn't leave, okay? And that is what we start with rather than recall, because recall assumes that your dog has gone somewhere. Recall could be your dog visiting another dog over there and you're trying to get them back. But if your dog's arousal level has gone up, they've turned their ears off because they've dropped into flight or flight. No learning can take place when a dog is in that mindset. So it's like trying to communicate with a child having a tantrum. So if your dog is off after a squirrel, they've probably dropped into prey drive. Okay, there's no way that you're going to go, can you come over here? And the dog's go, yeah, in a minute, I'm coming. I'm just going to do this. Okay, dog can't hear you. You're not there. The dog is off. How much better would it be if the dog didn't leave your side unless you went, yeah, okay, off you go. Okay, so rather than work with recall, we work with proximity. We work with proximity, and then we work with what we call a pre-mat cue. So a pre-mat cue is yeah, off you go, or a walk-on cue. So for my dogs, it's walk-on. So even off lead, my dogs don't lead. They don't walk to heel. They can do, but I don't make them walk to heel. They stay with me, within a zone around me, and if I've decided it's safe, I'll tell them that they can walk on. And just walk on, and again they still don't go that far, but they will walk on. Yeah, okay, go and do dog stuff, and then their recall is built on top of that. Okay, so what I'm building in here is kind of like this safety net of I'm not going to let my dogs leave my side unless I've decided it's safe to do so. So that's what we need to be looking at, and how we start to build that is at home. You don't work with your dog in a busy field when their arousal level is really high, because again, they're going to be in flight or flight and your dog isn't going to be able to learn. Okay, so we do that at home. Now you might sit in your kitchen, work, this is just like step one. Okay, you work into a corner so the dog doesn't wander off. Okay, so you've got the dog's attention, so you're here, you're working into a corner, you're flicking food into the corner, so you're moving the dog away from you. The dog will turn around and look back at you, and you'll mark that with their name, flick the food out again, look back at you, mark that with their name. Okay, so what you're building is a little neural pathway where the dog learns their name and they learn that that is coming back to you. And then gradually, once that's really strong, you will then increase the value of the environment. You will stretch the value of the environment to something maybe slightly larger. You across the kitchen, in another room in the house, you start to build it. You might then go out to the garden where you are throwing food out, so you're pushing the dog away from you, and then the dog is turning back to you, okay, of their own, it's their decision. You're marking that as the correct decision with their name or whatever mark it is you want to use, and you're throwing the food out again. We're not luring them in, okay? We're not luring, and again, there's another subject that I can go on for hours with. We do lure, but not when we're dealing with behaviour. So we would throw it out, and it's that act of the dog making the decision to look back at you. We're not talking about eye contact. We're not looking about the dog sitting there looking at you. We just want that little check back. And we want the dog moving. We're not looking at sitting down, looking at you, because dogs aren't that good with stillness. We just want that little bit of contact. Out again, mark it when they look back at you. Out again, mark it. So you are giving the dog the opportunity to leave you, but they're choosing to come back. And this is where the strength is. This is where how you're actually starting to build the fact that the dog has more value for you and starts to understand that the value is with you and not the environment. So that is very much a first stage of the situation of how we actually start to build that. And I hope that makes sense. Now, I've actually been going nearly an hour, and this was kind of only meant to be like a half hour. But I wanted to talk to you about something else very quickly. Let me just get my notes so I don't forget anything. So, you've probably gathered by the amount I've gabbled that getting our puppies off to the best possible start is a passion, okay? Because this is the crux of the problem. This is where it's going wrong. This is why we've got puppies starting out with one owner and ending up in a rescue, having to be rehabilitated by people like me 2 years down the line, okay? Rehabilitating a puppy or a dog that's got severe behaviour is hard work, okay? And a lot of people don't always have the time to do it. It's hard. Chihuahuas are still one of the most euthanized dog breeds. It's sad, but it's the case. And quite often behaviour is cited as the main reason. Now, even the craziest dog can be rehabilitated. I have worked with hundreds of Chihuahuas. But it's so much better if we can stop that happening in the first place. So this is what I'm proposing to do. Slightly longer term, I want to build an online course in very much in the same way I've got our Chihuahua School Stress-Free Walks course. I want to build a puppy course. I want to build a puppy course that people can log into and they can not make the mistakes that I've just been outlining, and they can grow a confident dog so that their relationship doesn't suffer. Now, while obviously that's kind of what I want to do to start with, is I want to invite a handful or a few Chihuahua puppy owners who are interested in working with me over 6 weeks in a specific Facebook group where I will help them and I will coach them on their Chihuahua puppies training. And then the feedback and the work that we do together, I will use to build my puppy course or your puppy course, because you will have access to it. So this training will take place in Facebook and it will take place on Zoom. We will have a weekly Zoom. I will be doing live teachings and I will be answering your questions and coaching you through all aspects of Chihuahua puppy behavior, building your optimism, building your calmness, building your independence, helping you get your walk off correctly so that you are not going out the door like Liv's puppy, so they're not going out crazy, barking and lunging at traffic. Now, what I'm going to do is the actual invitation for people to come and work with me goes live on the 24th, okay? But what I'm going to do is if you're on this live and you're interested, I'm going to put the link where you can book your space now. It's going to be £97 for 6 weeks of professional training, which I think is probably about £17 a week, something like that. So it is going to be a lot less than your average puppy class, and you're going to get better results because your dog is going to be working in an environment where they feel calm and in an environment where they feel safe, rather than bucket full and the dog is completely over aroused. So for 6 weeks, I will work with you. I will help you build a confident, calm Chihuahua so that you're going to have the relationship that you want with them, so that you get the dog you dreamed of, rather than you having to fight these difficult behavior issues that Chihuahuas are quite developing. I'm just going to read a comment, just bear with me. Yes, absolutely. So, Michelle, so words not coming. Even if your dog's not a puppy, the same thing applies. You can rebuild a relationship. The puppy course may or may not be relevant, but even if the puppy course isn't relevant, then Chihuahua school is, okay, because that's what we do. We rebuild relationships, and if you're relearning behaviors, you can definitely rewire a dog's brain so that their behaviors change. So you could do it through the puppy course. It's generally going to be for dogs that are under 8 months, sort of zero, that's crazy, you know, 12, 13 weeks to 8 months. If you are struggling with your Chihuahua's behavior and they're older than that, the puppy course would help, but you might be better off at Chihuahua school or just booking a standard one-to-one. So £97, and that is basically just helps me administrate it, put the time into it, to build it, and all the nuts and bolts that it takes to put one of these courses together, because it ain't cheap. So I will put the link to that in the comments once this live has finished, and if you want to jump in now and reserve your spot, then you can do that. It doesn't start, we start inviting people on the 24th. It's not for everybody. It's not going to be for gazillions of people. And the actual training for your dog will start at the beginning of April, the 2nd. I was going to say the 1st, but then I kind of thought April the 1st, it's probably not an auspicious day to start something. So maybe the 2nd. So I will work with you for 6 plus a bonus week, and I will help you build the confident puppy, the confident adult dog that you were hoping for when you got your puppy. Okay, let me just check. Do I have any videos where I can watch you teaching the recall technique? Yes, I do in Chihuahua school. I tell you what you can do. If you go, we have a word's not coming. Sorry. We have a challenge called the Focus Challenge. That it's not that exactly, but it gives you the basic idea. So I will put a link to that. Okay, and so if you take what I've just told you, have a look at the Focus Challenge, and then just bring the environment in a bit. That the principles will apply. I'm trying to think if I've got a video of me doing it with Prince. If I have, I'll dig it out and I'll put it in the comments. Okay. I might have actually. Yeah. But join the Focus Challenge as well, because that will also help you build this proximity zone around you. And I'll put the link to that. It's totally free. So, you know, you can just join it, and yeah, it should give you all the information you need. But I'm just doing it in a wider environment. It's not necessarily in a kitchen where you would work with a very young puppy. Okay. And the reason I say work into a corner is because sometimes they wander off, because obviously they've got very, very short attention spans, and they might just wander off. So we just use a corner just to kind of to keep them engaged. When you do train your puppy, literally a minute, okay, you're much, much better off doing a minute here and a minute there than you are doing, you know how you go to puppy classes and it's 1 hour and everybody's got to stay there for an hour, and the dog is just like, oh God, I'm absolutely shattered, okay, and isn't going to learn anything, and anything it does learn probably isn't going to be very helpful, and they're probably not going to be able to apply outside. Generally, I have 2 Chihuahuas that just turned 1 year old. Should I get the Chihuahua school instead? Yeah, I would. No, and I'm not just doing that touting for business. I wouldn't take a dog to puppy school because they find it too over arousing. Okay, their arousal level goes up and they're not going to learn. Okay, now if your puppies are 1, you could still put them in on the puppy course. You could still put them in there, or you could join Chihuahua school. Put them in the puppy course. I would do that. The fact that they're 1, they're still technically puppies until they're 1, so that could work for you. So yes, that could help. I'm just checking comments because they don't come up on the dashboard. I don't know why they don't come up on the dashboard, and I don't want to refresh because Facebook Lives can be really mardy, and you're kind of like, and then losing everybody. So yes, I do have some videos. I will sort that for you and put them in the comments. Has anybody else got any other questions that they'd like to ask me? Just very quickly put them in the comments and I'll come back to you. I'll just have a drink while you do that, because I've been gabbling as ever. You must be able to tell that this is just a passion for me. Right, let me just refresh this and see if there's anything else. Okay, no, nothing new on there. Okay, lovelies. I have been chatting away here for an hour. If you have stayed to the end, thank you. I'm very impressed. Okay. Please excuse any speech issues. I just can't help it. I have a bit of a stutter. I don't think I've been that bad tonight, actually. I think it's just generally because I'm so passionate about this that it just comes out automatically. So I will put any links that that we've talked about underneath this live. And in the meantime, if you have a question that suddenly occurs to you, then put it in the comments, or you can DM me, or you can send me an email or whatever, and I will come back to you. I will put the link in to join us in Chihuahua Puppy School. You'll get an email saying that you will that you've joined. Not much else will happen after that, because at this stage you're just booking your place. And then over the next couple of days you'll start to get some information out. I've opened a Facebook group already. I just need to put some stuff in there, and I will direct people to the Facebook group. And then once we're all in and we've done our launch and we've invited our people, then we'll start the learning. Then I'll start teaching you how to get the Chihuahua dog that you actually wanted, rather than one that's kind of got crazy behavior issues. Let me just quickly check again. No other comments. So I look forward to, oh, hang on a minute, what's that? It says I've got 6, but I can't see them. Where are they? Oh, super. I look forward to having you in. I'm struggling to pronounce your name. I'm really sorry, darling. Ania. Sorry, I'm really sorry. A bit dyslexic. No. Okay. I'm going to sign off now. I've really enjoyed this. I love talking about dogs, as you probably gathered. And I will put the links in now. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll come back to you. And I look forward to seeing you in the puppy school if you choose to join. You take care, and bye-bye for now.